Last night, the Luminosity Smash Invitational 2 wrapped up in Florida, with 16 of the world's best players all coming out to see if they could school the competition and graduate with full marks as the world's champion. My name's Rister Mice, and today I'll be recapping the entire tournament, much like I did for Supernova, going over everything in chronological order. And just in case you're not familiar with who exactly was attending, let's give a very quick rundown. Of course, all of Luminosity Gaming's players, Sonics, Tweek, mkleo, Maister, and Mars, were invited by default. LG also held an online last chance qualifier, which TM7 Zap won, thus solidifying his place in the Invitational. Asimo earned his place at the Invitational through his amazing 4th place finish at Supernova. He was the highest placing player who wasn't already going, and thus was invited. And lastly, every other player attending was invited by Luminosity, partly based on who Twitter audiences wanted and partly based on players who attended the first Luminosity Smash Invitational. These players are, in no particular order, Light, Shuton, Dabuz, Kola, Glutonny, Zamba, shinymark, and Shattuck. Going into this weekend, these are the 4 pools for the group stage. Many people had thoughts about these, especially Pool B, but I'm not really going to go into detail about these pools, other than just leaving this image up here for your viewing convenience. We're not here for hypotheticals, we're here for gameplay. So with these pools in mind, and these side events like Randubs and the crew battle finished on Friday, we launched into Saturday morning, and the beginning of the group stage. For this part of the video, I'm only going to be covering upsets within pools, though at the end, I will show each pool in its entirety for you all to see how each set panned out. So without further ado, let's begin. The first 2 pools to get underway were pools A and B, which were both ran at the same time. The stream setup bouncing between the 2 so that no one had to play twice in a row. The very first stream set of this tournament took us to Pool 1 for Zamba versus Spargo, with Spargo going Aegis, as Rob is considered one of Cloud's worst matchups and one of the only matchups Spargo still uses this character for. Spargo is coming off hot from wins at both Supernova and Riptide, but in a startling beginning to this tournament, Zamba defeated Spargo in a 3-0 sweep. And since Spargo is the first seed compared to Zamba's 8th, this turned out to be an upset factor 5 victory. Zamba hasn't been out to a lot, other than a 7th place finish at Riptide, but it seems like Zamba was coming into this tournament full force, reminiscent of Genesis X. But guess what, dear viewers? We're not done, because not only did the first set of the stream result in an upset, so did the second. Sonics, trapped in a pool of which characters have you lost to recently, was up against Light's Fox. And despite Light's recent struggles against Ken and even Sonics himself, Light still has a dominant lifetime set record, and Light extended that dominance here in Group B pools, defeating Sonics in a 3-1 victory. Just like the Zamba Spargo upset, this clocked in at an upset factor 5, with Sonics being the 2nd seed and Light being the 10th. Our next upset takes place in the same pool, Group B, but with the 2 other competitors, shinymark and Kola. This is known as one of, if not the definitive worst matchup for Roy. And yet, despite that, Kola defeated shinymark in a 3-1 set victory. This upset only had a factor of 2, since Kola was the 15th seed and shinymark was the 7th, but matchup-wise, this may have been the craziest upset so far. With this set, combined with Zamba over Spargo's Aegis, the argument for matchups not mattering in this game has never looked stronger. Bouncing back over to Pool A, we have the most anticipated set of this entire pool, Spargo versus mkleo. You may have thought, based on the earlier loss to Zamba, that Spargo wasn't playing very hot at this tournament. Well, you'd actually be kinda correct, because mkleo destroyed Spargo 3-0, 2-stocking him twice. mkleo, the 9th seed, defeating 1 seed Spargo, ended up clocking in at an upset factor 6, the largest of the tournament so far. This result all but guaranteed that Spargo finished in the bottom 2 of his pool, having racked up 2 losses with no game wins after winning back-to-back P-tiers. As for Leo, all he had to do was defeat Zamba to win his pool undefeated. Bouncing back to Pool B, we got our first Game 5 of the tournament so far, with 7th seed shinymark going up against 10th seed Light. And in today's theme of players winning seemingly impossible matchups, Light ended up defeating shinymark in that decisive Game 5, meaning that shinymark went down 0-2 in sets against +2 matchups. Despite being our closest set of the weekend so far, it's also our smallest upset, only clocking in at upset factor 1. Speaking of shinymark, despite being upset by both Light and Kola, he did manage to get an upset of his own over the 2nd seed Sonics in a 3-1 set victory. This was an upset factor 4, even though shinymark was guaranteed to start in loser's bracket anyways. And our final upset of these first 2 pools also took place in Pool B, with Kola, the 15th seed, defeating 10th seed Light 3-1. This minor upset factor 1 victory sent Pool B up into chaos in terms of who's getting out through winners, but we'll cover that later. And lastly, even though this technically was not an upset, we have got to talk about mkleo versus Zamba. You see, both players were guaranteed to make it out of winners anyways, no matter who won this set. And so, Leo went solo Meta Knight and lost in a close Game 5. Zamba even swapped to Dark Pit, and even though Leo almost reversed 3-0'd, he came up just short. And that's it for Pools A and B. These are the final results of the 2 pools. Pool A is much simpler, with Zamba having a clean 3-0 win record and being the first seed of the pool, followed by Leo, who went 2-1, Spargo, who went 1-2, and lastly, TM7 Zap, who sadly did not take even a single game in pools. Pool B was far more complicated. Kola, the bottom seed of the pool, actually made it out as the first seed, thanks to his upsets over shinymark and Light, with Light in particular also making it out on winner's side, going 2-1. shinymark went 1-2, and lastly, in a shocking turn of events, 2nd seed of the entire tournament, Sonics, ended up as the bottom seed of the pool after going 1-2, and having less game wins than shinymark. So just to simplify, pools A and B ended with Zamba, Light, Kola, and mkleo making it out on winner's side, and with shinymark, TM7 Zap, Spargo, and Sonics making it out on loser's side. Oh, and by the way, Spargo and Sonics, the 1st and 2nd seeds, are fighting for last place in the final bracket. Yeah. We'll get back to that later, but for now, we have to see how pools C and D pan out. We start off in Pool C, with Shuton versus Tweek throwing down for the first time in years. And Tweek, the number 6 seed, ended up defeating the 3rd seed Shuton in a 3-1 victory. Good for an upset factor 2, and starting off the second half of pools with a bang. Moving over to Pool D, we have 5th seed Asimo versus 12th seed Maister, with Maister reverse 3-0ing Asimo to upset the Ryu, doing so with an upset factor 2. Maister had some great adaptation in this set, and his win here echoes him defeating Asimo at Japan West 24 just a few weeks ago. Speaking of Asimo, after having been upset by Maister, he decided it'd probably be a good idea if he had an upset win of his own. And so, Asimo defeated the 4th seed Shattuck 3-0 for a minor upset factor 1. Our next upset has us bounce back to Pool C for their most anticipated set, 11th seed Glutonny versus number 6 seed Tweek. This was one of the closest sets of Saturday's group stage, going down to a decisive Game 5. But in that Game 5, Glutonny defeated Tweek, extending his dominant lifetime set count and scoring an upset factor 2 with this victory. And the final upset of these 2 pools comes in Pool D, with 12th seed Maister versus 4th seed Shattuck. Looking like a completely different player after his trip from Japan, Maister defeated Shattuck in a Game 5 set, getting revenge from Genesis X so long ago, in an upset factor 3 win. And that wraps up Pools C and D, as well as day 1 of this tournament. Here are the results from these 2 pools. Pool C, in the broad strokes, went fairly as seeded, with Tweek and Shuton making it out on winner's side, and with Glutonny and Mars making it out in loser's side. just like they were projected to. The biggest deal with these two pools comes in Pool D. Maister, who was projected to make it out in losers, instead swept his pool 3-0, looking like a new player. Asimo made it out on winner's side, like expected, but Shadok, who was projected to make it out through winners, now had to start top 16 in loser's side. And lastly, Dabuz went 0-3 in his pool, though he did take one game in each set at least. Pools C and D saw Tweek, Shuton, Maister, and Asimo making it out through winners, and with Glutonny, Mars, Shadok, and Dabuz making it out through losers. This means that our top 16 bracket is fully decided going into Sunday. Here's what it looks like. The players on winner's side need to only win one set to make it into top 8, while everyone starting from loser's side needs to win 2. Like we mentioned earlier, Spargo and Sonics are fighting in losers round 1 for 13th place. But other than that, there weren't too many dramatic early outings. If you don't know how this tournament pans out, take a moment and leave a comment giving us your predictions on how this final bracket is going to go. And while you're down there, pick up some high quality, fairly priced merch to support Luminosity Gaming and everything they do in Smash Bros. You probably heard a lot of the commentators speaking highly of this merch, and none of it was hyperbole. So pick up some clothes, a hat, or a poster to commemorate this legendary tournament. With that, I'll see you all on Sunday morning for the rest of this tournament. Sunday morning is now, and we opened up the third and final day of this tournament in losers round 1. The first set put on stream was Shadok vs Mars, a run back from the first Luminosity Invitational that Mars in particular was excited for. And Mars made that excitement count when it mattered most, defeating Shadok in a nail-biter Game 5 set. This was a big upset factor 4 win, since Mars was the 14th seed and Shadok was the 4th. Our next set is the projected grand finals of the first and second seeds of Spargo and Sonics. Out of every set in losers round 1, this one had the most eyes on it, as a 13th place finish here is definitely going to significantly hurt someone's claim for number 1 in the world. And in yet another genuine nail-biter, Spargo's Roy defeated Sonics in a Game 5. Technically, this wasn't an upset, since Spargo is the 1 seed, but this set was the most important pre-top 8 set of the whole tournament. Our next 2 sets return us to some level of normativity, with Glutonny defeating Dabuz's Rosalina and Olimar in a clean 3-0 sweep, bringing us to our last set of losers round 1, shinymark vs TM7 Zap. This set ended up being a 3-1 victory for shinymark, and with TM7 Zap taking a game here, this means that no one at this invitational went 0-12 in game count, which I think we can all agree is a good thing. It's nice to keep things competitive. And that's it for losers round 1, with TM7 Zap, Dabuz, Sonics, and Shadok being eliminated at 13th place. And yes, that is both grand finalists of last year's invitational tying for last place. Now we've got to head up to winners quarterfinals. The first set of winners quarterfinals was Asimo versus Tweek, with the last time these two fought having been at Supernova, which saw Tweek absolutely destroy Asimo. However, Ashimo's level up came through, with the Japanese Ryu defeating Tweek in a close Game 5 set, moving into winners semifinals and casting Tweek down into losers. The next set was the most hype of winners quarters, mkleo versus Kola. This set was fire from start to finish, and the Burning Blade himself, Kola, came out on top in 3-1 fashion. This set was good for an upset factor 1, which allowed Kola to move into winners semis against Asimo and sending Leo down into losers quarters against Glutonny. Our next set is Maister versus Shuton, which Shuton won in a 3-0 sweep that saw him make nearly a full stock comeback each and every game. And with this loss, every single remaining Luminosity player was in losers bracket. And our last set of winners quarterfinals was Zomba versus Light, where Zomba took the victory 3-1, moving into winners semifinals against Shuton and casting Light down into losers against Mars. And so, that wraps up winners quarterfinals, with Zomba, Shuton, Kola, and Asimo making it into winners side top 8, and with Light, Maister, mkleo, and Tweek dropping into the losers side top 8 qualifiers. Speaking of which, these are what those sets look like. we've got Tweek versus Shinymark, Leo versus Gluto, Maister versus Spargo, and Mars versus Light. This is your last chance to guess who's gonna take the last 4 spots in top 8. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Our first loser's side top 8 qualifier took us to a decisive game 5 in Shinymark versus Tweek. But in the end, Shinymark took that decisive game 5 over Tweek, moving into top 8 from loser's side and eliminating Tweek in a minor upset win. Our next set is mkleo versus Glutonny, the rematch from Regen 2024's Grand Finals, but now just a top 8 qualifier. But feeling like a new player, Leo got his revenge in 3-1 fashion, moving into loser's side top 8 and eliminating Glutonny. Next up, we've got Spargo going up against Maister, which saw Spargo go Aegis for the first time since his set against Zamba. This set was very fast, with Spargo 3-0ing Maister to make top 8 through loser's side. And lastly, we have our final loser's side top 8 qualifier, Mars versus Light, a banger classic set. This was an extremely hype back-to-back slog, but ultimately, Light took the set 3-1, moving into top 8 through loser's side. And that's it for the loser's side top 8 qualifiers, which ended with Tweek, Glutonny, Maister, and Mars being eliminated at 9th place. With this, we have our top 8 of the Luminosity Smash Invitational. On winner's side, we have Zamba versus Shuton and Kola versus Asimo. And on loser's side, we've got Shinymark versus mkleo and Spargo versus Light. And with how the bracket has gone so far, only time will tell how this top 8 will turn out. Will Kola continue his legendary momentum as one of the bottom seeds? Will Spargo make a legendary losers run to win the tournament? Will Japan's reps in Asimo and Shuton both make winners finals? The only thing that we can be sure of is that this top 8 is going to be legendary. And without any further delay, let's get right into it. Even though most tournaments start off with losers 8ths, this particular tournament decided to start off with winners semifinals, so that the players in losers could have a break. The first stream set was Shuton versus Zamba, a runback from Riptide that saw Shuton go solo Aegis and absolutely demolish Zamba in a 3-0 sweep. Quite the dramatic difference from Zamba's set with Spargo's Aegis. With this victory, Shuton moved into winners finals, and Zamba was sent down into losers quarters. Next up was the other side of winners semifinals, Kola versus Asimo, the 2 fan favorites. At first, this set seemed very Asimo favored, going up 2-0 in the set in very dominant games. But piece by piece, Kola fought his way back into the set, bringing us to a decisive game 5. And in that game 5, Kola absolutely mollywopped Asimo, 3-stocking him within minutes in the most dominant game of the entire tournament so far, which also clocked in at an upset factor 3. This allowed Kola to move into winners finals versus Shuton and sent Asimo down into losers quarters. The next set has us move down to losers 8ths for Shinymark versus mkleo. You may have expected Leo to whip out the Meta Knight, but you'd be wrong. Leo defeated Shinymark with solo Joker, including a reverse 3-stock. Moving on in bracket and eliminating Shinymark at 7th place as the 7th seed with an upset factor 1. Shinymark, despite a rough pools performance, managed to still have an overall good placement at this tournament. The other side of losers 8th saw Light go up against Spargo, and even though Light did manage to take a game, Spargo took the set 3-1. Moving on in bracket and eliminating Light at 7th place as the 10th seed after a phenomenal return to form for this Foxman. Now we're up to losers quarterfinals, those sets being Asimo versus Spargo and mkleo versus Zamba, which is the one that got streamed first. This set, Leo vs Zamba, has quite a storied history, but a recent one that includes Leo absolutely dominating Zamba at tournaments like Warehouse War 4. However, completely contrary to those recent results, Zamba defeated mkleo 3-1 for the second time this weekend, moving on into loser semifinals and eliminating mkleo at 5th place as the 9th seed. The highest placing and last remaining Luminosity Gaming member now out of bracket. The other side of losers quarterfinals was Asimo versus Spargo, a dominant set record for Spargo and a dominant on-paper matchup for Cloud. And in line with both of these things, Spargo defeated Asimo in a quick 3-0, moving on in bracket and eliminating Asimo at 5th place as the 5th seed after a standout performance to accompany Ashimo's rise to prominence. We're now down to our top 4, with Kola vs Shuton in winners finals and Zamba vs Spargo in losers semis. And it was winners finals that ended up being put on stream first. Winners finals was quite the interesting set, with Kola going up 2-0 in the Roy Aegis matchup, Shuton swapping to Olimar and defeating the Roy, and then with Kola swapping to Cloud in order to counter the Olimar. But the counterpick war ended up being in Kola's favor, winning the set 3-1. This sent Shuton careening down into losers finals, and allowed Kola to enter grand finals from winner's side as the 15th, aka second to last, seed. What a performance so far. And with Shuton sitting in losers finals, we have to take a look at losers semis to see who would meet him there. Losers semifinals was Zamba vs Spargo, the rematch from pools, and specifically the very first set of this entire tournament, which had resulted in Zamba sweeping Spargo 3-0. But in a complete reversal from what we saw back then, Spargo defeated Zamba 3-1 with solo Aegis, getting his revenge from pools and eliminating Zamba at 4th place as the 8th seed, after an amazing performance. Spargo, now having vindicated himself, moved into losers finals to go up against Shuton in the runback from Riptide Grands, to see which one of them would move into grand finals of the Luminosity Smash Invitational. These games went absolutely down to the wire each and every time, in a matchup that Spargo himself has said is Cloud's worst. But the third and final game was different, because Spargo locked in and absolutely destroyed Shuton, completing the set 3-0 and eliminating Shuton at 3rd place as the 3rd seed after a great run. And now we have our grand finals. Kola, the second lowest seed of the tournament, who has upset literally everyone in his way to make it into grands through winner's side. And Spargo, who had to start final bracket from loser's side and locked in, now making it all the way to grand finals from loser's side. This is perhaps the most hype grand finals we could have asked for, but in the end, only one of them will win, and it's time to find out who. The first set of grands looked like it was going to a Game 5, with Kola up 3 stocks to 1 in Game 4. But Spargo, using solo Aegis, made a phenomenal 3-stock comeback to win the first set of Grand Finals 3-1, and bring us to a Grand Finals reset, the final definitive set of this tournament. And this Grand Finals reset did not disappoint, going to a decisive and final Game 5. No matter who won, this tournament was ending this game. Still staying solo Roy and Aegis, we went to Battlefield for the first time in 2 sets. And Kola went up 3 stocks to 1, looking unstoppable in this set. But we've seen Spargo reverse 3-stock in this set before. And just like clockwork, Spargo brought us to a final stock. And on that final stock, this happened.
There, and Spargo is putting a brick wall in front of him right now. Spacing. We have made it to last stock. Kola, up air, there, forces Spargo into the corner. He's gonna keep this juggle going. Oh my God! He got the smash! Oh my God! Thundercats! Get that camera back on there! Rip it all down! Fuck him up! That's right! Fuck him up! That's right! Rip it all down! Back to conversation!
Oh my God!
Oh my goodness!
That's right, Kola defeated Spargo in a Game 5, eliminating Spargo at 2nd place as the 1st seed, and with Kola and his electric pop-off, winning the 2nd Luminosity Smash Invitational as the 15th, second to last, seed. This was quite literally Kola and Roy's best tournament run of all time. As the underdog, Kola upset every single person in his way, and defeated some of the best players of all time, only dropping sets to Sonics and Spargo. We could not have asked for a better tournament, and it was an exciting time in all aspects. If every Luminosity Invitational is like this, then we're in for many more great tournaments. You know, if Kola doesn't destroy all of our venues first, that is. With that said, I've been Mr. Mice, and thank you all so very much for watching.